Hello and welcome to everybody out there in Viewerland. Today is Monday, October 31st. Happy Halloween. I hope you're having a great day. In this Unity tutorial, I am going to cover the basics of creating a simple nav mesh, some agents to walk along the nav mesh, and we'll do some scripting to tell the agents where to go. They'll either follow a set of patrol points that we can set up, or they will be set to follow a object that we create. In this case, it just happens to be an animated empty. This is a great way to put enemies into your game, and as always, this is just a gentle introduction, and there's lots more to learn. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're back. In this sample, I've set up a simple nav mesh system consisting of some objects that will either be walkable or non-walkable surfaces. So all of the brown stuff is going to represent areas that the agent can walk. The red areas will be things that he avoids. The agent in the middle here is just represented by a cylinder and a cube. And then we have two empty objects which we're going to use as waypoints for the agent to follow. Now, when working with empties, oftentimes it's really easy to lose the object. So by selecting the object, in this case the follow this empty, I can go to the inspector and I can assign an icon to it. There's all kinds of them you can choose from. I like these. It shows the name and it makes sure that I never lose my empties. I've also decided to label the agent. Now, for any surfaces to be included in the nav mesh, they have to be set to static. So I'm going to select nav plane, which is the parent of ramp, raised platform, and stairs, and I'm going to select static. And this says yes. Let's go ahead and do that for obstacles as well. Obstacles contains all of the obstacles, and we'll say static, and yes, change the children. That's our first step. Next, we're going to find our navigation window. If you don't have your navigation window open, simply go to Window, AI, Navigation. From here, we can set up our properties for our nav mesh system. First off, the agent itself. This will determine how tall our agent is. In this case, he has a height of 2, a radius of 0.5. He can climb up a step 0.75 meters, and he can climb up an incline of 45 degrees or less. I can change all of these options here. If I choose to create different shapes of agents, simply create new and then set the new properties. Under areas, we can assign walkable areas to only certain agents if we decide. This is kind of beyond the scope of this lesson, but let's say you want to have some agents that can swim and some that cannot. So you could set up certain areas as water, and only the agents that you've told could use that would be able to function in that area. If you go through the reading, all of this is explained in detail. Under bake, this is where we're going to bake our nav mesh so that our agent knows where it can and cannot go. We'll be returning to this in just 1 second. And under object, this is where we're going to assign values of whether something is walkable or not walkable to our agents. So we start by selecting nav plane, which the way I have this set up, it selects everything that I want to be walkable. And I'm simply going to come over and I want to make sure that walkable is chosen. If I do the same for the obstacles, make sure that they are set to static. I'm going to say not walkable. And now all of the brown areas are designated as walkable. All of the red areas are designated as obstacles. Let's go ahead and go to my bake. Since I've included a jump, I need to make sure that I set my jump distance. We'll try this for 4. If this doesn't work, we'll just rebake it. and that works pretty well. Let's go ahead and see if we can get them to jump off the top here, and we'll do a drop height of, say, 2. Okay, so if they need to, they'll drop off here. I'm going to raise that up just a little bit more. So we'll say drop height of 4. And then bake that one more time. And so if I told them to, they would jump right off the top of that. Okay. If we were to test this now, absolutely nothing would work because we haven't told our agent that they're an agent yet, and we haven't set up where we want them to go as of yet. But we can see that it has baked all the walkable area. And in the next bit, we will set up our agent to follow this empty, and we'll be able to drag him or her all over the map. Okay, so the next step in our process is for us to assign a NavMesh agent component and the script to our agents so that they will know where to go. To do so, I'm going to make sure that I have my capsule selected that I want to act as the NavMesh agent. I'm going to go over to my inspector, and NAV will of course bring me the NavMesh agent. This is where I can set how tall he is, how fast he is going to move, how quickly he turns, the acceleration, braking distance, stopping distance, and so on. The next thing we'll need to add to that is going to be our follow script. So if I just type in follow, it knows that I've got a script in there called follow. And this is going to ask for 2 inputs here. So let's jump over and take a look at this code. Now again, here's my usual disclaimer. I am not a programmer. I just have very smart friends. So the way this code works is we have 2 public transform references to begin with, and we're going to populate these in our editor. That's the 2 objects that it was asking for. Number 1 is what object am I going to follow, and the other object answers the question, where am I? And we'll discuss that as we get farther down here. I skipped this, and I should have mentioned it. When using the navigation system, the NavMesh system, you have to include the using Unity Engine.ai in your code. Otherwise, it won't know what a NavMesh agent is. So be sure and include the using at the beginning. And now back to our references. These 2 references we will populate when we go back to the editor. This reference is a reference to the NavMesh agent component that we're using on this object. So upon awake, we populate that component so it knows what to do and how to do it. During update, this is where we are going to check the position of our NavMesh agent and move it directly towards the target if possible. We start with an if-else statement. The if-else statement determines how close it is and if it should move or not. We simply say vector3.distance, which is a position in space, the vector3.distance. The position that I'm checking is the position of the AI POS, that reference we made up here. And then the object to follow position, again, the reference that we made up here. And you can set this to any arbitrary number. If you're really smart, you'll make it a variable. But in this case, I'm just going to say 2, so that's 2 meters. And if it is less than 2 meters, if these 2 positions, the difference is less than 2 meters, then the next destination, or the destination for the NavMesh, is going to be its current position. If this turns out to not be true, then we say NavMesh agent.destination, which is where are you going, and that is going to be equal to the position of object to follow. Let's see how that works in practice. So we've assigned our follow script to our agent, and we're going to answer the follow questions. What are you going to follow? Well, we're going to follow this, and I did that incorrectly. I should have come over here and grabbed follow this. We're going to drag it out. We're going to drop it right into that dialog box there, object to follow. The AI position, I am going to drag agent follow to answer that question. And that's going to just take its current position and store that value there for us. If I move agent follow, or I'm sorry, follow this, agent follow is going to follow that object wherever I take it to. And because we did that if statement, rather than running right up on top of it, it will stop within 2 meters of it. If I bring it over here, it's going to navigate the pattern. Let's go ahead and bring it on over here, and then we'll get to see the jump get demonstrated. Jump again, and so on. So wherever I move this to, my nav mesh agent is going to follow. You could very simply attach this to your player controller, and therefore your agents would constantly follow your player. Okay, for the next part of this, we're going to set up a set of control points. To do so, we're going to begin by duplicating our nav mesh agent. We're just going to move agent follow 1 and rename them. This will be agent patrol, because they're going to do something different. So agent patrol, let's hit enter. First thing we want to do is get rid of our follow script that we had on there, and we're going to put our patrol script on there. Now, patrol script asks for several things, or can ask for several things, I should say. For the most part, it's just going to ask for one. It's going to ask for the control points. Let's take a look at that script real fast. So, a couple of things that we've done in this script now. In the beginning, we do create a public transform. Array, and it's called points. We have an integer, destination point equals 0, and then a reference to the nav mesh agent, just like we did before. So in void start, we say agent.getComponent. We also say agent.autobraking equals false. We do not want them to slow down at each waypoint. We want them just to pass on through as if they were going without stopping. So we write our own function here called goToNextPoint, and we start with an if statement. We say if points.length equals 0, return, which means it goes back and it does nothing. Set agent.destination equals points destination point.position. So what that's asking now is, what is my next destination? And we're going to assign it one of these values here in our transform array. Choose the next point in the array as a destination, cycling to the beginning or cycling to the start if necessary. Destination point equals destination point plus 1 percentage of points dot length. So that's just going to figure out where it is in the array and assign 1 or add 1 to it so it goes to the next one. In void update, we ask if the agent.pathfinding and agent.remaining distance is less than 1.5, and that's a float. We're going to say go to next point, at which point it comes up here and runs our function. Now this asks for one thing. It's going to ask for the point. What point do we want to go to? So we select our agent patrol. We're going to come up here, we're going to find patrol point. And I did that wrong. We need to go ahead and add to that, so my apologies. I have my agent patrol selected that has my patrol script on it. I'm simply going to say add, and it's going to add element 1. And that is going to be that should not be there. My apologies. Messed that up too. Okay. There we go. So we take the patrol point and we put it into element 0. Let's go ahead and make a couple copies of this. So we'll say Control D to duplicate that one. So this is point 1. We'll say Control D to duplicate that one again. That would be patrol point 2. One more time. And we're going to put that one up here. Okay. Let's go ahead and take patrol point 1. And we're going to put it over here. And patrol point 2 is going to go over here. We don't really need that one, but it's already there. So, okay. So now we need to add all of these patrol points to our script. So we have a total of 4, so we're going to need 4 elements. And we simply drag them in the order which we want them to go. So you got patrol point 1, patrol point 2, and last but certainly not least, patrol point 3. All right. So agent patrol should go to each point in order and just loop around. Oh, it was quicker for him to jump down, and so because I set it up so that he could jump, he just jumped straight down. Let's go ahead and move this one. So now these are something that you could set up to dynamically move, all kinds of things that you could do. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial on the basics of nav mesh. As always, there is much to learn, so if you want to know more, let me find this for you real quick. Be sure and follow these links and do some reading. I look forward to seeing what everybody makes with this little bit of information, and I hope you all have a great week. Thank you very much.